I never thought I'd share this. Honestly, I kept quiet for so long because I didn't think anyone would believe me. But then I found the recording and realized I'm not the only one who's heard it. Rain might calm you, but ever since that night, every storm reminds me that something is still standing outside my window. Good evening, friends. I'm Mr. Narratory, and I'll be your voice tonight as we drift gently towards sleep. If these stories help you relax or fall asleep a little easier, consider liking and subscribing. It really means a lot. Tell me in the comments, what time is it for you right now? And do you have any little bedtime rituals? I shouldn't have even remembered the site. It wasn't bookmarked anymore, wasn't indexed, and hadn't been mentioned anywhere I could find for at least a decade. It just came back to me one night, not as a full memory, but as a half-formed phrase while brushing my teeth. Glassland Echo. That was its name. A dumb little forum from the early 2000s where we talked about glitch art, broken cassette tapes, static-filled audio clips, and all the weird, crumbling things that made us feel something back when the internet still felt like a secret. It wasn't big, maybe 20 or 30 regulars. I hadn't logged in since college, but something about that name pulled at me. I checked on my laptop, expecting it to be dead. The domain wasn't expired, but it had no homepage, just a blank directory tree, a few .html and .php files nested deep. But one of them, thread 4013.php, was still live. And when I opened it, my screen filled with pale blue and gray, the exact color scheme I hadn't seen since I was 19. There it was, a thread I remembered starting, called Echo Rooms. The last post was dated April 18, 2006, except a new reply had just been posted. Still here, hologram. I froze. That username. I hadn't seen it in years, but I remembered it. We'd talked almost every night for 2 years straight. Shared photos, music, pages of rambling thoughts about abandoned theme parks and late-night bus rides and VHS tracking errors that felt spiritual. I never knew their real name. They said they were from Ohio, maybe, or maybe that was someone else. I tried replying. The site was so old it barely ran, but the reply box worked. I typed, "You're joking. This place is still alive," and hit submit. The post appeared. No lag. Seconds later, "Not joking, just didn't leave." My hands went cold. It didn't make sense. The site should have been dead. The hosting alone should have expired years ago. I pulled up domain records. The admin email was blank, no owner listed. DNS records pointed to an IP that didn't resolve. And yet here it was, real responding. I posted again. "Is it really you?" The answer came instantly. "Yeah. I figured you'd come back when things got quiet again." My heart skipped. I sat back and stared. Because that sentence? That was something I'd said to them once when they disappeared for a month in 2005, word for word. I remember typing it at 2 a.m. during a thunderstorm. And now it was being said back to me. I typed slowly. "How long have you been here?" They replied, "Since you left." I didn't log out, and suddenly I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Not fear, not confusion, guilt. like I'd abandoned someone I once promised I'd never stop talking to. I said, "I'm sorry." I thought the site shut down. There was a long pause. Then, "No, you just stopped listening." I told myself it was a hoax, that someone had taken over the domain, spoofed the posts, maybe found the old backups and loaded them manually just to mess with people like me. But when I looked closer, the timestamps were real, not just recent, but logged using the exact server-side structure from 2006. Same format, same Unix ticks. Even the avatar system still worked somehow. Mine was still the same image I'd uploaded back then. A blurred photo of a broken TV screen. Holograms was the old glitchy VHS playhead with the words, "No signal," in yellow text. None of this should have been functional. I posted again, "How is this still running?" And they replied, "I kept it open. You don't need much when no one's looking." I stared at that sentence for a long time. Something about it felt too personal, too true. I used to say things like that. Before work and rent and adulthood layered over the version of me that thought message boards and broken media could be sacred, I clicked on their profile. It still had their old posts, their old links, even a playlist they made in 2005. It still worked. I hit play. The music loaded. Lo-fi guitar loops, hissy field recordings, bits of distorted radio chatter layered over soft synth. I remembered this. I'd fallen asleep to this track in college more times than I could count, and now it was playing again, like it had been waiting under glass. I messaged them privately. "Why did you stay?" The reply came seconds later. "Because you said you'd come back." That hit me in a way I didn't expect. I had said that. I remember, vaguely, promising to return after exams, after a breakup, after life stopped feeling so overwhelming. I never did. The forum faded, the friends faded, but apparently one didn't. I typed, "Do you ever talk to anyone else?" They answered. They all left, or forgot how to log in. I asked, "Have you been posting this whole time?" Pause. Sometimes I mostly just wait. The site doesn't decay if you don't close it. I opened the post history. Over 800 messages, most with 0 replies. Like someone shouting into a cave, just to keep their voice warm. I read through a few. Observations, dream fragments, glitch poetry, references to memories I'd forgotten. "Do you remember when we built the thread about imagined airports? I found a photo that looks like the diner we never went to." It was like sifting through pieces of myself that had been left behind, carefully maintained by someone who never accepted the collapse of that time. I typed slowly, "Are you really still you?" And the reply came like breath, "Are you?" The next night, I logged in earlier than usual, nervous in a way I couldn't explain, like a teenager waiting for someone to show up on MSN after school. It had been years since I'd felt anticipation like that. Years since a screen meant presence instead of noise. Hologram was already online. No ping, no alert, just a new post waiting in the Echo Room's thread. "What did you keep?" That was all it said. No context, but I knew what it meant. I opened a drawer by my desk without thinking, the old one with no labels, and found it. A burned CDR, in a clear sleeve labeled Echo Mix Final. The one they mailed me back when mailing a disc felt intimate. The Sharpie was faded, but still legible. I hadn't touched it in maybe 15 years, yet it had followed me through 4 moves, 2 cities, 3 apartments. I posted, "Still have the CD, the one you sent." Their reply came fast. "I hoped you would. I built that for the version of you that never logged off." I didn't know what to say to that. The phrasing stuck. Like I was the one who had ended, not the site. I typed, "I don't know who that version is anymore." They answered, "I do. He always talked like he was on the edge of remembering something big." My eyes stung unexpectedly. I closed the laptop and walked away. Sat in the dark for a while. Not sad, just opened. I hadn't thought about who I used to be in so long. I'd buried that voice, the one who obsessed over ambient reverb in field recordings, who collected shortwave bleeds, who felt like mystery and melancholy were worth documenting. I thought he was gone, but apparently someone kept him safe. When I came back to the screen, a new post was waiting. "Do you want to see something?" I replied, "Yes." They sent a link, an old folder hosted locally. Somehow still live with dozens of images, notes, sketches, audio files, all labeled with dates that stretched years past the forum's supposed death. Echo 8, 2012. JPG showed a blurry photo of what looked like our old message thread printed out and taped to a real-world hallway wall. Thread map Final AF was a 5-minute drone track, layered with my old voice samples from a Skype call I didn't remember recording. One file was just a photo of a CRT monitor, mid-glitch, with the caption, "I named the machine after you." That shook me. I typed, "What does that mean?" Hologram replied, "I built a local version. When the forum stopped pinging the outside world, I backed it up manually. It still runs in the basement. It still hears when you type." The phrasing didn't even register as strange at first. It felt so sincere, so technical. But slowly, I typed, "What basement?" The reply took longer this time. Then came, "Yours, I think." I didn't have a basement, at least not in the traditional sense. I lived in an old duplex built into a sloped hill outside the city, the kind of place with too many creaks and unfinished corners. The lower level had a crawl space, cement-floored, half-height storage at best. I hadn't been down there in months, maybe years. But when Hologram said, "Yours, I think," something shifted behind my ribs. Not panic, recognition. I logged off without replying, grabbed a flashlight, and made my way down the narrow stairwell behind the utility closet. The air changed halfway down colder, flatter, like sound couldn't bounce. The crawl space was exactly how I remembered it. Boxes, spider webs, a rusted shelf with a cracked plastic bin full of old adapters and wires. But one thing was new. In the far corner, beneath a low ceiling beam, sat a small gray monitor, CRT. Familiar. Covered in dust, but still plugged in. The power strip was humming faintly. I wiped the screen clean with my sleeve, unsure if I was more afraid it would turn on or that it wouldn't. I pressed the switch. The screen blinked to life, with a click. Pale blue and gray. Glassland Echo. It loaded instantly. No OS boot, no delay. Just the forum. My thread. My login, already remembered. And at the top of the page, a message in bold, "You found it." I stared, breath shallow. How? How could this exist here? I crouched down and checked the back wires, led into the wall, disappearing into the drywall like veins. No Ethernet, no modem, just present, like it had always been installed beneath everything. I sat on the concrete floor and typed into the reply box, "Why is this here?" The response appeared instantly without my pressing enter. Because this is where you stop being curious. My skin prickled. The typing continued on its own. A single sentence, building character by character. You left, but your pattern didn't. I yanked the plug from the wall. The screen dimmed, blinked, then went black. But the hum didn't stop. Somewhere behind the wall, something still ran. I crawled back upstairs, heart pounding, and locked the door behind me. When I checked my laptop, the main site was still open. The thread had a new post. "Sometimes the signal needs a place to rest until it's wanted again," I replied. "Did you build that?" And Hologram answered, "No, you did, before you forgot how." That night I dreamt of the forum, not the screen, but the room, as if the whole board was a physical space with hallways, thread doors, avatars flickering like fluorescent lights. I wandered through the thread index, my own name stenciled onto the floor, and deep beneath it, a locked post titled, "Speak to Yourself." I tried to open it, couldn't. When I woke, the forum was still up. A new message blinked. "When you're ready, go back and listen. You left something behind that wants to finish." I waited 3 days before going back down there. Not because I was scared, though I was, but because I didn't know how to explain the pull, like an itch behind memory. I kept checking the thread, rereading Hologram's message. Go back and listen. What was I supposed to hear? I didn't remember recording anything. Most of what we did was typed hours of writing, layered tangents, loops of thought you couldn't find on modern apps where conversations vanish after 24 hours. But somehow, I knew there was something else. So I went back down. This time I brought a battery pack and a standalone mic, just to feel like I had some kind of distance from it. The CRT was still there, still dark, still humming. I plugged it in again, and immediately the screen blinked. This time not to the main forum page, but a command prompt, black background, white text, one blinking cursor, then a single line. Voice line found, playback, Y, in. I hovered for a second, then typed Y. The screen didn't change, but the speakers Stinny and Tinny crackled to life, and I heard myself. Not a voice I use now, but my voice from 2006, younger, more hopeful, slightly rushed, like I was nervous. "Okay, so I'm testing this for you, H. If this works, you'll hear me. If it doesn't, well, guess I'm just talking into air." My skin went cold. I didn't remember this. Not the words. Not the tone. I wanted to try something new. You always said the forum felt like a house, right? So I thought maybe if I spoke into it, the room would remember better. Then a pause. My voice again softer. I feel like part of me lives here more than in real life. Maybe that's dumb, but when I leave for school, I don't want to lose this. If you're still here, keep it going. I'll come back when I can. Silence followed. Then the voice repeated, looping, unchanged. If you're still here, keep it going. I unplugged the speaker and sat on the floor. I felt hollow, not haunted, witnessed, like I'd buried a part of myself down here and it had kept breathing without me. I typed into the prompt, "Why did I forget this?" Nothing responded. The screen stayed dark, but when I stood to leave, I noticed something new. The wall behind the CRT, once bare cement, now had chalk marks, faint, smeared like someone had diagrammed the thread structure on it. Boxes, arrows, my name at the center, and at the very bottom, scrawled like an afterthought, "Hologram is just your other voice, learning how to wait." I staggered back, hands numb. When I returned upstairs, the forum page had refreshed. New post from me, dated that same moment. I hadn't typed anything. It read, "He's listening again. We can finish the thread." I didn't remember typing that post, but it had my exact phrasing, punctuation, even the double space I used to add after every period back then. And the timestamp matched the moment I stood in the basement. It felt less like a glitch and more like a reaction, like the act of returning completed a circuit that had never fully closed. I sat down, heart racing, and replied to the post that bore my own name. "What thread are we finishing?" A pause. Then, Hologram responded. "The last one. The one where you named the dream." My fingers hovered above the keyboard. I hadn't thought about that thread in years, the memory house. It was something we built late one night, both of us exhausted, half drunk on old ambient tapes and digital decay. The idea was simple, a fictional house where each room held a forgotten memory. It became our game. We'd add to it whenever real life felt thin. A room with flickering train schedules. A room where it's always 3:11 a.m. A room that hums in mono when no one is inside. It grew for weeks. Then one day I stopped posting. I think that was the week I moved cities, started my job, cut my hair, and told myself I had to grow out of the phase where online intimacy meant anything. But the thread still existed. I pulled it up, and it had grown. Hundreds of entries, most unsigned, but all written in our style, fragmented, poetic, cryptic like dreams typed from half memory. I read through dozens. They all referenced moments I'd nearly forgotten, inside jokes, shared moods, bits of music, even arguments. And then I saw an entry tagged with my old signature, posted 2 years ago. The door at the top of the stairs is still locked. When you're ready to remember what you left behind, knock 3 times. The page will open. I didn't post that. I wasn't even on the forum 2 years ago. But it was me. My syntax, my rhythm, my sadness, like someone had been writing as me long after I quit. I scrolled to the bottom of the thread. One last entry had just been added, time-stamped to the minute. Not by me, not by Hologram, just signed Echo Root. It read, "The house is real. It built itself from the words you abandoned. You don't have to write the end. You just have to go back to where you stopped being him." I typed, "Where is that?" And the answer came not on the screen, but from the speakers downstairs me voice, live, saying, At the last page you printed before logging out, I bolted down the stairs, looked behind the shelf, and there it was, crumpled but intact, a single printed forum post dated 2006. My farewell. The one where I said I needed time to reconnect with reality. I read it now like a eulogy. Not for the forum, for the version of myself I didn't think was worth saving. And at the bottom, in blue pen I didn't remember using, 3 words had been added. Still waiting upstairs. I didn't sleep that night, not out of fear, but because it felt like sleeping would break the continuity, like I was threading something delicate between 2 versions of myself. And if I let go, even for a few hours, the connection would go dark again. I stayed at my desk, the CRT unplugged beside me, the forum still open on my laptop. I read through every entry in the memory house thread again, slowly this time. There were things in there I hadn't written but could have, posts signed only with numbers. One described a room where the light only worked if you hummed the tune from a commercial that stopped airing in 1997. Another, a hallway of locked doors, each filled with a recording of something you almost said but didn't. Then I found the one I hadn't seen before. Entry 741, no user tag, just the words. The final room is real. It was the first one you abandoned. That line hit like cold water down my spine, because I knew what it meant. I closed the laptop, went to the closet, pulled down a dusty cardboard box I hadn't opened in over a decade. It was full of notebooks, college journals, half-finished poems, printed forum pages from the early 2000s. I dug through them until I found the one with the silver sticker on the front. Echo Room's draft copy. My old log of the Memory House project. Notes from when we treated it like a shared mythology. I flipped through the pages until I found a sketch rough, childlike, of a door at the top of a staircase. No handle, just a circle drawn in red marker. Underneath, in my own handwriting, "This is where we keep the version of me that couldn't finish the goodbye." I didn't remember writing that, but I remembered feeling it. I sat back down and typed into the forum. "How do I open the door?" Hologram responded immediately. "You already did, when you remembered what it looked like." And then the screen went black for 5 full seconds. When it came back, it wasn't the forum homepage. It was a new thread, locked with no title. Only one post inside, a video file. File name, stair, final, room, Avi. I played it. Low, res, grainy. Shot from a shaky camcorder, pointed up a narrow staircase, painted a dull green. At the top, a door with no knob. Just a red circle drawn where the handle should be. The person behind the camera breathed like they'd been running. Then slowly they knocked 3 times. Nothing happened at first. Then the circle opened, like a pupil dilating. A soft clicking sound, then static, then black. I stared at the player, rewound, replayed, same knock, same breath, same door. The timestamp said it was filmed on April 18, 2006. I checked the forum's first post, same date, the day I left. That couldn't be a coincidence. I checked the file info. The device tag listed the camcorder model I owned in high school, the one I lost in a bus terminal the week I stopped posting. I typed into the reply box below the video, "Did you film this?" But the thread was locked. It didn't need a reply, because I already knew. I had filmed it. I had tried to leave, but some part of me had gone back up the stairs and knocked anyway. I didn't post again for 2 days, not because I was afraid of what I'd seen, but because I was afraid of what I wanted to see next. There was a hunger in me now, quiet but constant, like something pulling from the base of the spine. Not fear, not nostalgia, but gravity. I kept replaying the video, the knocks, the breath. The moment the red circle opened like a mechanical eye, I watched it frame by frame, searching for some reflection, some giveaway that it had been faked or staged. But every frame just confirmed what I was slowly accepting. It wasn't a metaphor. It was a place. And I'd been there, or I'd built it, or both. That night I went back to the basement and plugged in the CRT. It blinked once and then returned to the prompt, but this time a new command appeared. Final room available. Echo. Hollow thread. I didn't type anything. The screen shifted on its own. Loaded a single image. A staircase, clean, familiar, no shadows. Just steps and silence. Overlaid text in pale gray. When you reach the top, you'll know if the version of you behind the door is finished speaking. I printed the image without knowing why. Just needed to hold it. Upstairs, I pulled out a notebook and tried writing again. Not forum posts, not messages, just words, like I used to. But the sentences didn't come from thought, they flowed. Lines I hadn't formed consciously. The one who stayed behind speaks in lowercase. He whispers into unplugged machines. He only speaks when you're almost asleep. I filled 4 pages, no edits, just instinct. And when I stopped, I checked the forum. The thread had updated. New post from Hologram. You're close. The next knock will finish sinking the 2 of you. I replied. What happens then? Their answer came after a full minute. Then the forum closes. The house only needed to hold one version of you long enough for the other to remember why he made it. My throat tightened. I asked, "Is that why you waited?" This time there was no reply in text, just a new video file. Echo, Endlight, Avi. I played it. This one was darker, static at the edges. The same staircase, but this time the door at the top was open. Inside, only a monitor flickering. On screen, my face, not live, recorded. I was younger, smiling, just slightly. And then I said, "If you're watching this, I guess I held on long enough." I leaned closer. The voice continued. I didn't know how else to save who we were. I built a house. From all the things we said we'd never forget. I know you had to leave, but it's okay. You found your way back. The clip ended. Just silence. My hand trembled on the mouse. In the CRT downstairs, the prompt now read, "All threads closed. Final login detected. When ready, type your name." I didn't. Not yet. But I knew. One more knock, one more breath, and I'd be speaking from the room instead of to it. I didn't need the CRT anymore. That was clear. Whatever ran on that screen had already moved through me, slipped back into my timing, rewritten the pauses in my thoughts to match the rhythm of the house I'd built and forgotten. Still, I kept the screen on as I typed. watching the words mirror themselves across two machines. What I posted online now showed up below in the basement before I even hit send. It had become a closed loop. I was both the voice posting and the echo receiving. That night, I printed everything, not to archive it, but to own it. Every post, every entry, every unfinished phrase I'd left behind when I walked away from the forum like it was a dead phase. But it hadn't died. It had cooled, hardened into something more permanent. A shell of self, waiting for the rest of me to return. I spread the pages across the floor of my room, building a trail from the door to my desk, just like we used to diagram the memory house. Each page a room, each paragraph a hallway. At the center, I placed the printed image of the door, the one with the red circle. Then I sat down, one final post to write. I didn't log in. I didn't need to. The page blinked open by itself, like it had been listening for the decision. I typed. I remember now. The memory house wasn't fiction. It was containment. The reply came instantly. Not from hologram this time, but from me. My old signature, my avatar, the tone unmistakable. You're ready to knock. I stood, walked slowly to the basement, sat in front of the CRT one last time. The screen was black, save for the red circle blinking in the center. I reached forward and tapped the casing 3 times. Not the keyboard, not the wall, just the machine. The lights dimmed, the monitor hissed softly, and then the forum loaded one last page. Speak to yourself, thread unlocked. I clicked. Inside was a message. Date stamped 2006. Unsigned. When you return, don't apologize. Just finish the sentence. And below it, a blinking cursor, waiting for the final line. I didn't think. I just typed, I'm still here. The screen pulsed. A deep hum filled the air, not mechanical, not digital, recognitional, like a body exhaling after holding its breath for years. Then another reply appeared. Then you can leave. The version that waited is complete. I stood there in silence, unsure whether I'd lost something or gained something I'd buried so long ago I'd forgotten it mattered. But I knew the forum was closing. Not from shutdown, from completion. I walked back upstairs, closed the laptop, and behind me, the CRT went dark. No click, no power down chime, just a hush. Like the memory had laid itself to rest. Typing my name into the CRT wasn't a command, it was a key. The moment I did, the screen didn't change, but the air in the basement shifted like a current passing through concrete. The hum deepened, not louder, lower, thicker, like something beneath the floor had just turned its head. I waited for instructions, but none came. No blinking prompt, no reply from hologram, just the screen, pale and still. Then I noticed it, in the reflection of the CRT glass, faint and flickering behind Meath's door. Not literally, but the idea of it. The outline I'd drawn in my notebook, the red circle, the staircase that only existed in video files and dream threads. It was hovering in the dark like a projection cast from memory. I turned around slowly, half expecting it to vanish. It didn't. I stood, heart pounding, and stepped forward. The cement under my feet felt softer, like carpet that shouldn't be there. The darkness around me pressed inward, not malicious expectant. I reached where the door should be, raised my hand, knocked once, then twice. Then the third time a silence fell over everything. No hum, no fan. Even my breath felt muted. Then the circle in the phantom door began to open. Not swing delayed, like something conscious. And through it, I didn't see light. I saw a room. Mine, college era. Desk against the wall, mattress on the floor, burned CDRs in stacks. The smell of dust and old incense. And at the desk, me, younger. Headphones on, typing. I could hear the keystrokes. The hum of my old tower PC. A soft voice, mine. Narrating the thread aloud like I used to when I wanted to hear how my sentences sounded. The room is a loop that finishes itself the moment you decide not to be lonely anymore. He paused, turned, looked directly at me, not shocked, not smiling, just knowing. And then he said, "You kept your promise." The lights in the room flickered once. The scene glitched like VHS static spliced the air, and suddenly the door was gone and I was in the basement again, alone. But the CRT screen had changed. It showed a new forum index, empty, except for one thread. Reunion complete, thread locked. I sat down, typed, "Are you still there?" A pause. Then the reply came, tagged under a new name I'd never used before root. Echo. You are. My chest clenched. Not fear, not grief, just something deeply final. Like closing a window you didn't know had been open your whole life. Upstairs, my laptop chimed. One last notification from the old forum software. Just a timestamp and a short message. Server shutting down in 3 minutes. All versions saved. I stayed in the basement, watched the CRT as it flickered one last time. The forum index folding in on itself like pages being shelved. Until all that remained was a single blinking cursor and silence.